What if I told you some of the most important people in America during World War II weren't actually soldiers? Hi, I'm Lucas,
I'm Keenan.
And I'm Kylie.
and welcome to the Environmental Studies Podcast Group. This podcast dives deep into history, specifically women's roles in World War II. Many people may be wondering, why would we talk about women's roles during a war when the men were the ones fighting? On today's episode, we'll answer that. First, we'll be exploring the iconic Rosie the Riveter poster and shedding light on women's roles in World War II by analyzing a few secondary sources, as well as diving deep into how war propaganda worked during this time period. Let's start with the Rosie the Riveter poster, a symbol that has become a historic token of women's contribution to the war effort created by J. Howard Miller in 1942. Keenan, could you enlighten our listeners about the historical context and significance of this image?
Yeah, definitely. So, Rosie the Riveter was a poster that emerged during World War II as a rallying symbol, urging women to join the workforce to support the war on the home front. The image depicted a strong, determined woman with the caption, "We can do it." It not only encouraged women to take on jobs traditionally held by men, but it also challenged societal norms of the time.
How did this image impact the perception of women's roles during this war?
The poster served as a kind of catalyst for change. It broke down a lot of gender stereotypes and it showcased women as capable contributors to the war effort. It also empowered women to take up jobs in industries such as manufacturing, where they played a crucial role in processing some of the essential war materials that helped us fight in the war.
Okay, now let's dive into our secondary sources. Kylie, you've been researching Belafare and Mendel and Sinclair. Could you show some insight into how this source contributes to the understanding of women's roles in World War II?
My secondary source analysis was the Pioneers of Production Women Industrial Workers in World War II. This article, written by authors Elizabeth Mandel and Beryl Sinclair, gave me a new insight on what really happened once women entered into the male-dominated workforce during the war. Mandel and Sinclair originally got their inspiration from the We Can Do It poster of Rosie the Riveter, which goes hand in hand with our primary source. The two authors' intentions were to dive into research and prove how women's work and effort in the war did in fact have a long-lasting and powerful impact on America's society. Mandel and Sinclair visited the Army Museum in Massachusetts, where they found audio transcripts that describe personal experiences of women who lived during the time of World War II. Before the war, women were never seen in the male-dominated industry. So once the war did begin, new possibilities arose, and women felt they could finally get the chance to prove themselves to society. The two authors found out that by the end of the war, nearly every woman was laid off from their job, and their new life of opportunities came to a screeching halt. However, women did not just go home and pretend like nothing happened. They wanted to continue to work, and they would go home and tell their daughters that there was so much more to life, and they had the capability to create something of themselves. There is so much importance that came out of Rosie the Riveter and the We Can Do It poster, and the Pioneers of Production Women Industrial Workers in World War II article. Women took so much pride in their life, changing environment during the war, and they wanted a better future for their daughters. These two sources prove how great of an impact women had on American society, and they will always tell an incredibly important story to the future. Belfair, on the other hand, discusses how the Women Army Corps opened new doors for women on the home front. The WAC not only opened up factory jobs for women, but they also set up future generations of women to eventually join the military.
Belafare, along with our other secondary sources, provides a wealth of information about the experiences of women in the Women's Army Corps, as well as providing more information about women's roles on the home front. These sources offer a detailed look into the challenges, triumphs, and daily lives of women who served during the war, giving us a more nuanced perspective on their contributions. Keenan, can you discuss how propaganda on the home front affected the war?
Yeah, so for my secondary source, I looked more into how women were treated on the home front and how they were essential to the war effort. So the article I read talked about the WAC, or the War Advertising Council, and they pretty commonly spread propaganda that demeaned and shamed women into supporting the war. Not only was this propaganda bad, it reinforced a lot of gender roles and norms, but it was also pretty contradictory to its own self. Advertisements would often discourage women from having jobs and owning land that their husbands left behind, but at the same time, it would also shame them for not contributing to the war effort.
How do these sources enhance our understanding of the broader historical context, Kylie?
By examining secondary sources like Belafare, Kimball, and Mandel and Sinclair, we gain a more comprehensive understanding of the social and cultural shifts during World War II. These sources help us appreciate the resilience and determination of the women who defied norms and played crucial roles in shaping history. It can also provide context to some of the oppression women faced and show some of the strides women were able to make in the work world.
Thank you, Keenan and Kylie, for sharing your expertise on women's roles in World War II today. We've explored the impactful Rosie the Riveter poster, the trailblazing Women's Army Corps, and the valuable insights provided by secondary sources like Belafare. These sources all prove how important women were to the United States home front during World War II. Join us next time as we continue to uncover the untold stories of history. Until then, we would like to leave the audience with something to think about. Now that you know about the iconic Rosie the Riveter poster and what it stands for, think about how the poster continues to influence women's roles today.